The skies of Neo-Terra glittered with the cold shimmer of artificial constellations. Far above the poisoned clouds of Earth, where the poor clawed for scraps, rose the floating citadels of the wealthy. Among them, none were more infamous than the Skyhaven Mansion, a sprawling glass and steel palace tethered to the heavens themselves. It was whispered that even the stars dimmed in its shadow. Angela adjusted the crisp black and white uniform that hugged her figure, a reminder of her new position. To most, she was just another maid, another servant swallowed into the corridors of wealth, but her sharp eyes flickered with something more: curiosity, ambition, and perhaps a dangerous kind of hunger. The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss. She stepped onto the mansion's docking platform, boots echoing against the polished titanium. Guards in silver exo-armor barely glanced at her, already scanning the next wave of deliveries. Everything here was automated, efficient, untouchable. Angela tilted her chin upward. The mansion itself seemed alive, walls breathing with holographic veins of blue light, towers bending in impossible arcs, gravity-defying balconies suspended over endless clouds. It wasn't just a home, it was a fortress, an empire in the sky. Her employer, Chris Vale, was a legend whispered across the world. The richest man alive, owner of half the corporations that kept Neo-Terra afloat, a visionary who rarely appeared in public. To Angela, however, he was something more dangerous, a puzzle she intended to solve. The head steward, a pale android with a face too smooth to be human, guided her into the main hall. "Your quarters are prepared, Miss Angela," the android said, in a voice without warmth. "You will serve in the East Wing. Mr. Vale values discretion. Do not linger where you are not assigned." Angela's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. Discretion was never her strength. As she followed, her gaze wandered. Hallways stretched, like starships turned inside out, plasma chandeliers hovering without wires, glass floors revealing the clouds swirling far below, walls that shifted texture depending on who walked past. She paused before a sealed door humming with locked energy fields. Her instincts prickled. This wasn't decoration. This was containment. The android noticed her hesitation. Its blank eyes flickered blue. "Restricted access," it intoned. "Move along." Angela nodded obediently, though her mind was already cataloging details. The pattern of the lock, the resonance of its hum, the faint scent of ozone. Secrets lived here, and secrets were her favorite currency. By the time she reached her modest servant quarters, night had fallen outside, or at least the illusion of night projected across the mansion's dome. Angela sat at the edge of her bed, brushing back her dark hair. Through the walls, she felt it again, a pulse. The mansion itself seemed to breathe with hidden life. Somewhere above, behind layers of security, the richest man in the world plotted. "His next move," Angela whispered to herself, her voice low, determined. "Let's see what you're hiding, Chris Vale." And far away, in a chamber sealed against every eye, Chris watched her through a wall of holographic screens. He leaned back in his chair, the faintest smirk tugging at his lips. "She's already curious," he murmured. "Good. That will make things interesting." The game between them had already begun. Morning in Skyhaven Mansion did not arrive with sunlight. It arrived with orchestras. Hidden speakers embedded within the crystalline walls unfurled a soft symphony of violins timed perfectly with the kite. Artificial dawn projected over the sky. The clouds below shifted into shades of gold, painted to resemble a world untouched by ruin. Angela rose from her bed, stretching, her sharp gaze immediately scanning her new quarters. Sleek, sterile, efficient, just enough comfort to remind her she was serving in luxury, but not enough to forget her place. A wardrobe slid open automatically, revealing identical uniforms pressed to mechanical perfection. The room itself hummed. Faintly, alive with surveillance she could not see. She dressed, smoothed her dark hair, and stepped into the east wing. The mansion was quieter here. Unlike the bustling central halls, the east wing felt abandoned, as though time itself hesitated to move forward. Angela walked past towering windows, their glass flickering between transparency and mirrored opacity, depending on her proximity. For a moment she caught her reflection, a young woman in a maid's attire, lips curved into the faintest of smirks, eyes burning with defiance. Her first task was simple: prepare the main dining chamber for Chris Vale's morning briefing. But Angela worked slowly, carefully, letting her eyes wander. The furniture was unlike anything she had seen. Hovering chairs sculpted from iridescent alloys, a table that shifted in shape depending on who stood near it. She ran her fingers along its edge and felt something more, a faint vibration like a hidden heartbeat. Everything here is alive, she thought, or at least pretending to be. As she arranged a series of crystal decanters, she heard the whisper of footsteps. Turning, she saw him for the first time, not in holograms, not in rumors, but in flesh. Chris Vale. He entered, without announcement, without entourage. His presence filled the room as naturally as oxygen. Tall, lean, his dark suit stitched with thin, glowing threads of circuitry, he seemed less like a man and more like an extension of his empire. His eyes, piercing gray, swept across the chamber before settling on her. Angela lowered her gaze, bowing slightly, though her pulse quickened. "You're the new one," he said, his voice smooth, measured, with an undertone of command that could silence a battlefield. "Yes, sir," Angela replied, her tone respectful but not submissive. Chris studied her, tilting his head as if she were another acquisition, a puzzle to dissect. Most maids don't linger in restricted halls on their first night. Angela froze, so he had noticed, or perhaps he had been watching. "I was lost," she lied smoothly, offering a soft smile. "This place is overwhelming." Chris's lips twitched, almost a smile, almost a trap. "Overwhelming, yes. That's the point. Skyhaven isn't a home. It's a reminder. Those who step inside never forget whose shadow they live under." His words carried weight, not arrogance. Declaration. Angela's gaze flickered upward, just enough to meet his eyes. "And do you enjoy casting that shadow, Mr. Vale?" The question was bold, reckless even, but deliberate. Chris didn't answer. Instead, he stepped closer, close enough that the faint hum of his suit brushed against her skin. He studied her with a kind of amused curiosity, as though testing her. Limits? Finally he turned, gesturing toward the table. "Pour me a drink." Angela complied, hand steady, though her heart raced. As she handed him the crystal glass, their fingers brushed. Barely a touch, yet it lingered, electric. His eyes locked onto hers again, sharper this time, as if he were peering through every layer she had built. "Curiosity," Chris murmured, sipping the golden liquid. "It's a dangerous habit. But sometimes it's useful." Before she could respond, the walls of the dining chamber shifted, revealing a holographic briefing. Maps of fractured continents, fleets of orbital stations, lines of coded transmissions. Angela caught glimpses of names, coordinates, encrypted battle plans. Her breath caught. This wasn't the daily agenda of a businessman. This was a war table. Chris didn't dismiss her. He let her stand there pouring his drink, watching, absorbing fragments she was never meant to see, almost as though he wanted her to. And for the first time, Angela understood. Chris Vale was not only the richest man alive, he was something more. Something dangerous. As the holograms flickered, Chris's voice broke the silence. "Welcome to Skyhaven, Angela," he said softly, his eyes never leaving hers. "Let's see how well you adapt." And with that, she realized this wasn't employment. This was initiation. The East Wing corridors stretched on like arteries of a mechanical beast, pulsing faintly with neon veins that ran along the walls. Angela walked them carefully, her tray balanced, though her eyes were fixed not on the polished glasses she carried, but on the faint shimmer of cameras that followed her every step. She had known Skyhaven Mansion would be a prison disguised as a palace. She had not expected it to feel alive. Doors whispered open and closed around her without a touch, her presence alone unlocking them. Sometimes she would catch fragments of sound, voices echoing in languages she didn't recognize, static, crackling. In the walls, faint mechanical groans like the sighs of something dreaming. The mansion wasn't a home. It was a sentinel, and Chris Vale was its master. Angela thought of his gray eyes, the way they pierced into her like an interrogation, the way he had let her glimpse the holographic war table. A man like that didn't make mistakes. If she had seen what she shouldn't, it was because he had allowed her to, which meant one thing: she was already in deeper than she realized. That night her shift took her to the mansion's mechanical wing, a sector usually reserved for engineers and AI technicians. Her orders were simple: deliver refreshments to the technicians working late. Yet when she arrived, the wing was silent, the air heavy with dust and the faint smell of ozone. The corridors here were narrower, harsher. Gone were the marble floors and golden ornaments of the central chambers. Here the walls were exposed steel, throbbing with conduits of glowing energy. Angela's footsteps echoed like intrusions in a place not meant for her. At the far end of the hall she saw it, a door unlike the others, hexagonal, reinforced with shifting plates of metal that reconfigured themselves every few seconds, as though rewriting their own locks. The surface shimmered with alien symbols, characters she had never seen before, pulsing faintly with blue light. Her pulse quickened. Angela placed the tray on a nearby console, her curiosity consuming her. She stepped toward the door, placing her hand against the metal. To her surprise, the surface warmed beneath her touch. The symbols flared bright, lines of energy racing outward in spirals before vanishing. Then, with a low groan, the door split, open. What lay beyond was not a room. It was a cathedral of machinery. The chamber was vast, stretching down into darkness, platforms suspended by invisible gravity fields. Towers of crystalline data cores rose like pillars, humming with incomprehensible power. At the center hovered a massive sphere, covered in shifting panels of black metal that rearranged endlessly like a puzzle solving and unsolving itself. The sphere's surface glowed faintly with crimson circuits, pulsing in time with a heartbeat, not her own. Angela froze at the threshold, her breath caught in her throat. What in God's name is this? A voice crackled behind her. You shouldn't be here. Angela spun around, heart racing. Chris Vale stood at the entrance, his suit catching the dim crimson glow, his eyes unreadable. For a moment, neither spoke. The machine's hum filled, the silence vibrating through Angela's chest like a second pulse. Chris stepped forward, hands clasped behind his back. Do you know what this is? He asked, his voice low, patient. Angela shook her head, though part of her wanted to lie, to feign knowledge. But the sheer otherness of the machine stripped her of pretense. It's called the Aegis Core, Chris said softly, his gaze fixed on the sphere. Built long before you were born, long before this mansion, before the wars that tore Earth into pieces. Angela swallowed. It's alien? Chris's lips curved slightly, but not in amusement. Not alien, not entirely. Humanity made this, but with help, with knowledge we weren't meant to have. The panels on the sphere shifted, momentarily exposing a deep, pulsating glow within. Angela felt her chest tighten, as if something inside the core was looking back at her. What does it do? She whispered. Chris finally turned his gaze on her, sharp as a blade. It decides the future. Angela's breath caught. She wanted to ask more, to demand clarity, but Chris's expression silenced her. He was not a man who spoke in riddles. For pleasure, his words carried weight, truth wrapped in mystery. You see why curiosity is dangerous, he said. This is no place for servants. Angela lowered her gaze, though her mind raced. "Then why let me see it?" she asked. Voice trembling only slightly, Chris studied her in silence, his face unreadable. Then, slowly, he stepped closer until he stood beside her at the threshold, both of them bathed in the core's red glow. "Because," he said at last, "I need to know if you're afraid." Angela's heart thundered. She turned her head slightly, meeting his eyes. "And if I'm not?" Chris's voice was calm, but the intensity in his gaze was unyielding. "Then you may survive what's coming." The core pulsed again, stronger this time, casting long shadows across the chamber. For a fleeting moment, Angela felt something press against her mind, like the brush of invisible fingers searching through her thoughts. She gasped, stepping back. Chris caught her wrist before she stumbled. His grip was firm, grounding, but not cruel. "It senses you," he murmured. "That is unexpected." Angela stared at him, breathing hard. "What is it sensing?" Chris released her hand, turning back to the machine. "Potential, or weakness. Sometimes the two are indistinguishable." Angela's mind spun with questions, but Chris lifted a hand, silencing her. "Not tonight. For now, you will forget this room exists." His tone was final, commanding, yet Angela knew she couldn't forget. The core's hum was already etched into her bones. Chris led her out of the chamber. The ductor ceiling shut behind them with a hiss, erasing all evidence. As they walked down the corridor, he glanced at her only once, his eyes sharp and searching. "You asked me yesterday if I enjoy casting shadows," he said quietly. "The truth is, shadows are only cast when there's something brighter behind. Them, this mansion, this empire. None of it is the light. The light is what's coming, and it will burn everything we know." Angela shivered, though not from fear. For the first time since entering Skyhaven, she felt the stirrings of something deeper than curiosity, an unsettling mixture of dread and fascination. She had come here as a servant, a maid among machines, but already she could feel the threads, tightening, pulling her into something vast, dangerous, unstoppable. And as Chris Vale walked ahead, his silhouette bathed in the mansion's artificial glow, Angela whispered to herself words she dared not say aloud. "I will not be afraid." Angela could not sleep. The thin mattress in her quarters was comfortable enough, but the images of the Aegis core haunted her mind, its pulsing glow, the strange brush against her thoughts, and Chris's cryptic words, "It senses you." That is unexpected, replayed relentlessly. Skyhaven Mansion was quiet but not silent. Pipes hummed, walls whispered, and somewhere deep beneath the foundations, machinery shifted with purpose. Angela rose from her bed, slipping into the darkness with a practiced grace. She moved like a shadow herself, silent on the polished floors, every sense alert. Her curiosity, dangerous and insatiable, drew her toward the mansion's west wing, territory she had not yet explored. It was here, the head steward had said, that the mansion's private operations were managed. Angela's pulse quickened. Private operations. That was the polite term for secrets no servant was meant to touch. The corridors twisted like veins, walls lined with pulsating conduits. Lights dimmed as she moved deeper, responding to her proximity. Angela paused before a door unlike the others. It shimmered faintly, coated in a material that seemed liquid yet hard as diamond. A small holographic pad floated beside it, projecting symbols too alien for her to decipher. Angela's fingers hovered above the pad. Normally she would turn back, obey the rules, but the core's hum had awakened something. Boldness, a need to understand. With a deep breath she pressed her palm to the symbols. They flared, rearranging themselves, and the door hissed open. Inside, the room was smaller than the core's chamber, but no less formidable. Walls of glass and metal-enclosed stations filled with holographic screens, data streams that twisted and spiraled like living things. Figures in black exosuits moved silently, monitoring signals, decoding transmissions. Angela froze, and then she saw him, Chris Vale. He was at the center, not seated at a desk, but standing in a holographic projection of Earth itself. Cities shimmered in blue light, satellites orbited in perfect arcs, and glowing lines traced invisible. Networks between continents. Chris's hands moved in a fluid rhythm, manipulating streams of data as though conducting a symphony. Angela's heart raced. He was more than a businessman, more than a shadow of wealth. He was a war commander. "You shouldn't be here," Chris said without turning. His voice carried over the hum of the machinery, calm, controlled, but edged with steel. Angela swallowed, stepping fully into the room. "I didn't mean to—" He raised a hand, cutting her off. "You did. That's the problem." Angela's eyes wandered, absorbing the impossible technology. Satellites she had read about in history. Archives centuries ago were operational here, but upgraded, faster, deadlier, invisible to normal detection. Chris manipulated streams of energy that could collapse cities if misused, or protect them. "You're—" Angela faltered. "I am what I must be," Chris said sharply, finally turning to her. His gray eyes caught hers, sharper than any blade. "And you are curious, dangerous, but perhaps useful." Angela stepped closer, her pulse matching the rhythm of the glowing maps. "Why show me this? Why even let me glimpse it?" Chris's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Because you are already too close to ignorance. The mansion, the core, me, you've seen more than any servant should. The question now is whether you run or you learn." Angela hesitated, torn between fear and fascination. "And if I stay?" Chris's expression softened. "Just slightly, barely perceptible. Then you will see the truth. The truth about this world, about Neo-Terra, and about the threats that hide beneath its surface." The air shifted, the lights dimming, as if acknowledging his words. Angela's gaze flicked to one of the smaller consoles. A hologram of a spacecraft appeared, sleek and black, orbiting a distant unknown planet. Strange symbols traced its hull. Alien. Language unfamiliar, yet horrifyingly precise. "What is that?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. Chris's eyes narrowed. "A scout. From a faction humanity has long forgotten. They've returned." Angela felt a chill, not just fear, but awe. Chris Vale, the man she had been trained to serve, was standing on the front lines of a galactic war. And she was observing, learning. "Why me?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Why show me this?" Chris stepped closer, hands folded behind his back, his expression unreadable. "Because you are not just a servant. You are intelligent, resourceful, and adaptable. Those qualities matter in a war like this. The mansion, this technology, it is meaningless without someone capable of understanding it." Angela's mind spun. She had entered Skyhaven Mansion thinking she would serve tea, polish floors, follow orders. Instead, she was witnessing the mechanisms of power that shaped worlds, her life suddenly intertwined with a man who could destroy entire cities with a flick of his wrist. She swallowed, steadying her nerves. "Then, what do you want me to do?" Chris's gaze softened just a fraction. "Watch, learn, wait. There are steps you do not yet understand. When the time comes, you will act." Angela nodded slowly, though her mind was a storm of questions. She had glimpsed the machinery of Earth's future, and Chris Vale himself was both its master and its guardian. Her pulse raced, her instincts screaming that this was dangerous beyond anything she had imagined. Yet part of her, a darker part, felt exhilarated. She had never been so alive. The rest of the night passed in tense silence. Angela watched Chris work, fingers moving over holographic projections, eyes tracking streams of coded information faster than any human could read. She caught glimpses of strategies, covert operations, and alien technology woven seamlessly into Earth's systems. She realized with awe that Chris was not only defending the planet, but also orchestrating a delicate balance that no one else could comprehend. By the time the artificial sun rose over Neo-Terra, Angela was exhausted yet electrified. She returned. To her quarters, her mind racing with fragments of information she barely understood. The mansion had transformed in her perception. It was no longer a palace of wealth. It was a war machine, and Chris Vale was its commander. And she, Angela the maid, had already become part of its shadowy gears. Lying on her bed, Angela closed her eyes. The memory of the pulsing core, the scout, and Chris's piercing gray eyes. Replaying endlessly, a single thought crystallized in her mind. I am no longer here to serve. I am here to survive and to understand. The morning in Skyhaven Mansion arrived not with the warmth of sunlight, but with the cold precision of a calculated schedule. Artificial light cascaded across the corridors, programmed to mimic dawn, though the city outside was still in darkness. Angela moved with practiced grace, her senses sharpened after the revelations of the previous night. Every footstep, every whisper, every flicker of light seemed to pulse with intention. Chris Vale had not spoken a word to her since the surveillance chamber. He had left her alone, yet his presence lingered in the hum of the mansion's walls, in the faint vibrations of the floors, in the subtle rhythm of the air itself. Angela understood something essential. He was always watching, always testing. Her first task of the day was simple on paper: inventory the mansion's eastern security wing. On any normal morning, this would have been routine, but Angela's intuition screamed otherwise. The security wing was filled with monitors, AI-assisted drones, and biometric locks that responded only to authorized personnel. Each console hummed, with activity, projecting streams of data that flickered faster than her eyes could track. Angela's pulse quickened as she stepped deeper into the wing. She could feel the mansion itself reacting, lights dimming slightly, cameras swiveling toward her, doors sliding open and closed with quiet precision. This was no ordinary building. This was alive, and she was learning how to move within it. Without alerting its master, a soft chime sounded behind her, and Angela turned. A holographic pad had materialized in midair, displaying a sequence of symbols she recognized from the core. Her lips parted slightly. Someone, or something, was inviting her to interact. She placed her hand against it, the symbols flaring. With faint blue light, the holographic display shifted, revealing a map of the mansion's internal corridors. But this was no ordinary map. Certain areas glowed red, the restricted zones Chris had never mentioned, the chambers no servant was meant to see. Angela's breath caught. A voice echoed from the shadows, smooth and controlled. Curiosity has its price? Angela spun, her eyes narrowing. Chris stood there, his silhouette framed by the soft crimson light of the core chamber in the distance. His gray eyes were sharp, calculating. You've found the test, he said, stepping closer. A simple one, but necessary. Angela swallowed. A test? Chris nodded. Yes, to see how you handle the unexpected, to see whether you follow instructions or your instincts. Tonight, you will navigate these corridors and retrieve a package from the restricted wing. Angela's heartbeat quickened. And if I fail? Chris's gaze softened just slightly, almost imperceptibly. Then the mansion will forget you, or worse, it will remind you why obedience matters. The gravity of his words settled over her like a heavy cloak. Angela knew he wasn't bluffing. Skyhaven Mansion was full of hidden mechanisms, traps, and AI sentinels designed to detect deviation. One wrong step, one misjudged movement, and she could be trapped. Or worse. Chris handed her a small device. This will guide you. Follow. It signals carefully, but remember, intelligence matters more than speed. Adapt. Think. Survive. Angela took the device, a sleek oblong object that pulsed faintly with light. It felt heavier than its weight, as if it carried not just instructions, but expectation. She nodded once, her lips pressing into a firm line. I understand. Chris studied her a moment longer. Then, without another word, he turned and vanished into the shadows, leaving her alone at the edge of the eastern wing. Angela's first step into the restricted wing was tentative. The corridor ahead was dark, lit only by faint neon strips embedded in the floor. The walls shimmered faintly, alive with embedded surveillance. She moved cautiously, aware of every sound, the soft hum of the walls, the faint vibrations in the floor, the distant echo of automated systems. The mansion's AI tested her immediately. Doors slid shut behind her, isolating her from the main corridor. Security drones, small and almost invisible, hovered in the shadows, scanning for unauthorized presence. Angela froze, her mind racing. One wrong move could trigger alarms. She adjusted her path, moving along the edges of the corridor, staying in the blind spots. Every step was deliberate, measured. The mansion seemed to respond, shifting the lights and shadows as if challenging her further. At last, she reached the package, a small nondescript box suspended in midair within a magnetic containment field. The device Chris had given her pulsed, a guiding signal that synchronized with her heartbeat. Angela's hands hovered over the containment field. She took a deep breath, focusing. The mansion hummed in response, testing her resolve. With a swift motion, she disabled the field. The package dropped into her hands. Immediately, alarms blared, soft, almost imperceptible, but enough to alert her. Angela froze. Drones descended, scanning, approaching. Her instincts kicked in. She darted to the nearest shadowed alcove, pressing herself against the wall. The drones swiveled, their sensors sweeping. Angela held her breath, heart hammering. One wrong move and it would all be over. A soft click echoed nearby. The drones paused, then retreated. Angela exhaled, realizing she had not only survived, but outsmarted them. The mansion's AI had tested her, and she had adapted. Returning to the main corridor, package in hand, Angela felt a surge of confidence. Chris's challenge had been more than physical. It had tested her mind, her instincts, her courage. She was no longer just a servant. She was learning to navigate a living, breathing empire of technology. When she reached the chamber where Chris waited, she found him leaning against a console, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "You survived," he said simply. Angela handed him the package. "I did what you asked." Chris's eyes flickered over her face. "Yes, but survival is only the first step. Adaptation, intelligence, initiative. These are what will matter." Angela met his gaze, sensing the weight behind his words. "And what happens next?" Chris smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Next, you learn why Skyhaven exists, and why I am its master." The package opened with a faint hiss, revealing a compact holographic device. Streams of encrypted data flowed across its surface, communications between clandestine operatives, locations of unknown settlements, alien signatures buried in Earth's orbital network. Angela's breath caught. She understood, finally, the depth of Chris's operation. He wasn't simply defending the planet. He was managing a covert network of intelligence, balancing threats from alien factions, rogue AI, and political machinations that stretched across Neo-Terra. "And you," Chris said quietly, "will be a part of it." Angela's mind raced. She was just a maid, a servant. Yet she now held knowledge that could shift the balance of power in ways she could barely comprehend. The mansion, the core, Chris Vale, all were pieces in a puzzle far larger than her imagination. And as she left the chamber, the package secured, she realized something profound. Skyhaven Mansion was not a place to serve. It was a crucible. And she had just passed the first test. But she also knew the truth. This was only the beginning. The shadows she had navigated were gentle compared to the storm to come. And Chris Vale, for all his calm, had plans for her. That she could not yet fathom. Angela's pulse quickened. Fear mingled with exhilaration. She had survived, adapted, and learned. And now she was no longer just a servant. She was a player in a game that spanned worlds, machines, and secrets. Too vast for any one person to fully grasp, and deep inside she smiled. Let the tests come. I am ready. The mansion's artificial night settled over Skyhaven with a quiet ferocity. Outside, Neo-Terra's skyline glittered with neon and chrome, towering spires and holographic billboards stretching endlessly into the sky. Yet, inside, the corridors of the mansion were alive with hidden life, shifting floors, hums of secret machinery, and the soft click of surveillance drones. Angela moved cautiously, her senses honed sharper than ever after the previous nights. Test. Chris had left her with a new assignment. Observe the mansion's perimeter, identify any anomalies, and intercept potential threats before they could reach the core. It was her first real field test, a step beyond internal trials. Angela gripped the device Chris had given her, the pulsing blue light guiding her through hidden routes she hadn't even known existed. She entered the eastern wing, her footsteps light on the polished floors. Cameras swiveled and synchronized, arcs scanning, analyzing, anticipating. Angela smiled faintly. She had learned their rhythms. She had adapted. This time, the mansion was not testing her. She was testing it. A soft alarm echoed in her earpiece, a subtle vibration she felt in her chest. The signal came from the northern perimeter, a section she had mapped only briefly. A drone hovered in the shadows, its sensors detecting movement. Angela froze, recognizing the faint signature of an unknown energy source. Not human, she whispered, barely audible. The mansion's AI pulsed in response to her awareness. Pathways shifted subtly, walls rearranged, and lights dimmed to camouflage her movements. Angela slipped through a hidden passage, moving silently toward the source. As she reached the northern balcony, her eyes widened. A figure stood on the edge of the mansion's grounds, tall, cloaked, and almost spectral. Its silhouette shimmered with energy, pulsing faintly with a technology she had never seen. The being's presence distorted the air, bending light and creating an almost invisible shield around itself. Angela's pulse quickened. This was no ordinary intruder. The mansion's sensors had identified it, but Chris had not prepared her for something alive, intelligent, and technologically advanced. She pressed her hand to the device, and a holographic map projected in front of her. It highlighted weak points, potential entry paths, and energy fluctuations. The figure moved with unnatural speed, navigating the mansion's defenses with ease. Angela's instincts screamed at her to retreat, yet curiosity and resolve pushed her forward. She activated a small drone from her device, sending it to observe. Its tiny sensors transmitted live data, energy readings, movement patterns, and weapon signatures. The intruder stopped suddenly, turning toward Angela's position. Red energy flared briefly from its hooded cloak, a signal that it had detected her presence. Angela froze, heart hammering, but did not move. The mansion's shadows seemed to wrap around her, concealing her presence. A whisper of wind carried across the balcony. The intruder advanced, each step calculated, precise, threatening. Angela's mind raced. She needed a plan. Observation alone would not suffice. The mansion offered tools, trap mechanisms, pulse emitters, drone intercepts, but she had to deploy them carefully. One wrong move, one premature action, and the intruder would bypass her defenses entirely. Angela exhaled slowly. She activated a pulse emitter, a device designed to disrupt energy-based intrusions. A soft hum vibrated through the air, and the intruder faltered. For a moment, it seemed almost human, hesitant, uncertain. Angela seized the opportunity, moving closer through the shadows, device in hand, ready to manipulate the mansion's defenses. The intruder turned sharply, sensing her approach. Energy rippled across the air between them, a faint blue glow forming like a barrier. Angela's pulse synchronized with the device, guiding her actions. She activated a secondary drone, which swooped down and grazed the intruder's energy shield, creating a distraction. It worked. The intruder recoiled, and Angela slipped past its defenses, moving to the mansion's outer security console. Her fingers flew over the holographic interface, rerouting energy flows, activating containment fields, and sealing escape routes. The intruder's movements became restricted, guided into a trap of Angela's making. Suddenly the figure vanished in a shimmer of light, reappearing closer to the mansion's core chamber. Angela's mind raced. This was no ordinary intruder. It had knowledge of the mansion's structure, and it could adapt quickly. Her hands flew over the interface, recalibrating sensors, activating magnetic locks, and creating interference patterns designed to confuse it. Chris's voice crackled in her earpiece, calm but firm. "You are being watched. Keep it contained." "Do not underestimate it," Angela swallowed, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. "Understood," she whispered. The intruder paused, energy field flaring as it attempted a forceful breach. Angela pressed the final command. A net of electromagnetic pulses enveloped the area, and the intruder was trapped momentarily, unable to move. Angela's eyes glimmered with determination. She had done it. She had not just observed. She had acted, defended, and adapted. The containment field shimmered and then released. The intruder vanished in a burst of distorted light, leaving behind only faint traces of energy. Angela exhaled, her body trembling with adrenaline and relief. She had faced the unknown and survived. Chris appeared moments later, seemingly from nowhere. His gray eyes scanned her face. "You did well," he said, voice calm but with an edge of approval. "You handled it efficiently, intelligently, without panic. That is what matters." Angela nodded, catching her breath. It knew the mansion. It was like it had studied it. Chris's expression hardened. "It has, and it is not alone. That was a scout. Others will follow, and they will be more difficult. You need to remember this. The mansion can help you, but it will not fight for you. You must act, think, and survive." Angela looked at the holographic map, her mind still buzzing with the encounter. Neo-Terra was no longer a city of wealth and neon. It was a battlefield, and she had just glimpsed the first wave. The mansion, the core, Chris, everything was part of a larger war she had only begun to understand. "Will I be ready?" Angela asked quietly, more to herself than to him. Chris's lips curved in a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "You already are, and you will learn to be even more." The night ended with Angela returning to her quarters, exhausted but exhilarated. She knew that this was only the beginning. The shadows that had infiltrated Skyhaven Mansion were a warning, a prelude to a storm that would test her courage, intelligence, and loyalty. And somewhere deep inside, Angela realized something. She had crossed a threshold. She was no longer merely a servant. She was a guardian, a strategist, a shadow moving through the corridors of power. The mansion had taught her its rules, and she had learned them well. As she lay on her bed, the holographic device pulsing softly beside her, Angela made a silent vow. "Whatever comes next, I will be ready. I will survive. I will adapt." And with that, the night carried her into a restless sleep, filled with visions of shadows, energy, and the ever-watchful presence of Chris Vale. The neon glow of Neo-Terra's skyline stretched endlessly into the night, a vast mosaic of chrome towers, flying vehicles, and holographic advertisements that danced above the city like digital constellations. Angela stood at the edge of Skyhaven, mansion's aerial platform, the wind whipping around her dark hair, her pulse racing with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Tonight, she would leave the sanctuary of the mansion for the first time. Beyond its walls, beyond the controlled corridors and AI defenses, the world waited, and it was far more dangerous than anything she had encountered inside. Chris appeared silently behind her, as always, his presence almost imperceptible until she sensed it. "You're ready," he said, his gray eyes reflecting the city lights. "Out there, the rules change. There is no sanctuary. You will need your wits, your instincts, and the skills you've learned. The mission is simple: intercept a signal being transmitted to unknown operatives, but the consequences of failure are severe. Angela adjusted the utility harness strapped across her torso, the compact devices nestled within it, pulsing faintly. Small drones and communication tools were embedded in the fabric, ready to respond to her commands. Her black uniform clung to her frame, sleek and functional, designed for stealth rather than style. Yet, even in the muted practicality, she felt the familiar surge of confidence. She had trained, she had adapted, and she was ready to test herself in the world outside. Chris activated the platform's descent mechanism, and Angela stepped forward, hovering briefly over the edge before magnetic stabilizers engaged. Gravity tugged gently as she descended toward the city below, the hum of the stabilizers masking her movement. She glanced at the sprawling urban landscape beneath her. Skyscrapers glittered with neon veins. Flying vehicles darted like luminescent. Insects and shadowed alleyways promised both danger and opportunity. Her objective lay in the heart of Neo-Terra's industrial sector, a labyrinthine zone of energy plants, orbital relays, and corporate fortresses. Here, surveillance was pervasive. Drones patrolled endlessly, and the energy grids were monitored with ruthless precision. Angela's device pulsed, guiding her through the safest routes, but she knew instinct would matter more than technology. She approached the sector. She detected subtle anomalies, shifts in energy patterns, faint signals cloaked in interference. Someone, or something, was masking their presence. Angela crouched atop a ventilation shaft, her sharp eyes scanning. The area? A patrol drone swept past, its sensors glowing briefly in the dark. Angela's pulse synchronized with her breathing, moving with the shadows, a silent wraith amidst the neon chaos. The first obstacle was a cluster of energy shields guarding a communications hub. She crouched low, extending a small device from her harness. A soft pulse disrupted the field, creating a narrow window. Angela slipped through, moving with precision, each movement calculated, each decision critical. Inside the hub, the room pulsed with holographic screens projecting data, streams, encrypted transmissions, and alien communication protocols. Angela's mind raced. She had trained for this, yet the reality was overwhelming. Every signal could be a trap, every pulse a surveillance measure. She tapped into the hub's main console, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface, decoding encrypted transmissions. With skill and speed, suddenly a faint vibration under her feet signaled danger. The floor beneath the hub's entrance hissed open slightly, revealing a hidden detection system. Angela's heart raced. She activated a countermeasure, a field that created a temporary optical cloak, rendering her invisible to both sensors and drones. The system scanned, then shut down, unaware of her presence. Angela exhaled quietly, her pulse hammering with the thrill of near discovery. Her focus returned to the transmissions. They originated from an unknown source, an encrypted message traveling through multiple relay points, its final destination obscured. Angela traced the path, following the signal with methodical precision. As she did, a sudden alert flared on her device. Multiple intrusions detected. Alien operatives, cloaked and highly skilled, had infiltrated the sector. They were hunting. The same signal, and they would kill to secure it. Angela ducked behind a console as the operatives approached, their silhouettes outlined in dim red light. They moved in perfect synchrony, technology integrated with combat skill, scanning, analyzing, striking with precision. Angela's mind raced. She had no weapons except her wits, and the tools within her harness. With careful timing, she activated a small drone, sending it toward the operatives. The drone emitted a pulse that scrambled their sensors momentarily, buying her time. Angela darted from cover to cover, her movements fluid, shadow-like. The operatives recovered quickly, scanning the area, but Angela anticipated their every action, adjusting her path with instinct honed from weeks of mansion training. She reached the relay point just as the operatives closed in. a pulse of energy, blocked their path, a trap she had triggered remotely from her device. The operatives swore, their cloaked forms rippling with energy, but Angela didn't wait. She interfaced with the relay, extracting the signal, decoding it in real time. The message was clear. A covert faction sought to manipulate Earth's energy grids, using alien technology to control resources and political power. Angela's pulse quickened. This was larger than she had imagined. The stakes were no longer personal, they were planetary. Her fingers flew across the interface, rerouting the signal, encrypting it, and transmitting it securely to Chris. The operatives surged forward, their energy weapons firing faint pulses that lit the room in bursts of red. Angela ducked behind a console, her mind racing for solutions. She activated another device from her harness, releasing a field of magnetic interference that disrupted their cloaks and weapons momentarily. The operatives froze, and Angela seized the moment. She deployed a grappling hook from the ceiling, swinging across the hub using the shadows and structures to her advantage. With each movement, she became more than a servant. She became a force, a shadow of intelligence, speed, and calculated action. As she exited the hub, the city sprawled beneath her like a luminous battlefield. The operatives pursued, but Angela's knowledge of the terrain, combined with the mansion's guidance, allowed her to navigate the labyrinthine sectors efficiently. Neon reflections danced on her black uniform, wind tugged at her hair, and the thrill of survival surged through her veins. She returned to Skyhaven Mansion just as the first light of artificial dawn glimmered on the horizon. Chris waited, calm. As always, his eyes unreadable. Angela approached, her body flushed with exertion, her mind racing from the intensity of the mission. "You succeeded," Chris said, his voice firm yet approving. "You engaged in real-world infiltration, dealt with unknown operatives, and preserved the signal. That is no small feat." Angela exhaled, letting the tension drain from her shoulders. It was intense. They were advanced, more than I expected. Chris nodded. "This was only the beginning. The threats you face are not isolated. They will grow more complex, more dangerous. You've demonstrated capability, but now you must adapt to operate beyond these walls, beyond the mansion, beyond Neo-Terra itself." Angela's pulse settled, a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. She understood now that the world outside was a dangerous place, filled with intelligence, power, and threats far beyond what she had imagined. Yet she had survived, and more importantly, she had acted with precision, courage, and intelligence. As she gazed out over the sprawling city, Angela felt a profound sense of purpose. She was no longer just a servant. She was an operative, a shadow, moving through a world of light and darkness, intelligence and chaos. And she knew deep inside that this mission was only the first step toward something far greater, a war fought in shadows, neon, and secrets that could change the course of the planet itself. She glanced at Chris, standing silently beside her. The unspoken understanding passed between them, the mansion, the city, the world. They were all pieces of a puzzle, and she was learning to navigate it. Let them come, she thought, her eyes glinting with determination. "I am ready." Neo-Terra's night pulsed with unyielding energy, neon veins running through its towering structures like blood through living arteries. The city, a labyrinth of chrome, glass, and holographic illusions, seemed almost alive, watching, waiting. Angela's black uniform merged with the shadows as she moved silently along the ledge of the Viridian Spire, the tallest building in the industrial sector. Below, hovercrafts streaked through glowing highways, oblivious to the silent predator. Above them, Chris's voice crackled in her earpiece. "The operatives you encountered last night were scouts. The main force is moving now, converging at the Neon Abyss, a sector beneath the city used for illegal energy manipulation. You must intercept them before they gain full control." Angela exhaled slowly, her breath visible in the chill artificial wind. She had learned to trust Chris's directives implicitly. "Understood," she replied, her voice low but steady. The neon abyss was a place of shadows and danger, an underground network of tunnels, energy conduits, and illegal tech installations. Neon lights flickered intermittently, casting jagged reflections on wet surfaces. The air was heavy with ozone and the faint hum of massive energy grids. Angela descended into the sector using a hidden elevator embedded in the side of the spire, a secret path Chris had identified. As she stepped into the abyss, the first sight of the operatives made her pause. They were more formidable than she had anticipated. Clad in adaptive cloaks, their eyes glowed faintly red through visors, scanning the environment with precision. Each moved like a predator, silent, methodical, efficient. They carried devices capable of manipulating energy fields and disabling conventional defenses. Angela crouched behind a stack of energy conduits, activating her stealth field. Her device pulsed softly, mapping the operatives' patrol patterns, highlighting blind spots and suggesting optimal routes for interception. Her pulse synced with the device, her mind calculating multiple strategies at once. A sudden flicker of light drew her attention, a drone hovering nearby scanning the cell perimeter. Angela's fingers flew over the interface, deploying a micro-emitter that scrambled the drone's sensors. It spiraled harmlessly out of control and crashed into a conduit with a muted clang. Angela exhaled quietly. One obstacle down, she advanced cautiously, moving from shadow to shadow. Her senses were heightened. Every hum, flicker, and vibration carried information. The operatives were coordinated, but Angela noticed a pattern. They were following a pre-programmed route, likely relying on predictive AI to locate the signal. That predictability was her advantage. Angela approached the main conduit, the source of the illicit energy signal. It pulsed with unstable power, sending waves of energy through the abyss. The operatives were already there, attempting to interface with it. Angela activated a small drone, sending it toward the nearest operative. The drone emitted a burst of interference, disrupting the operative's connection momentarily. "Now," she whispered to herself, lunging forward. Energy flared as the operatives noticed her. Red light bathed the cavernous space, and the hum of advanced weapons filled the air. Angela's pulse raced. She had trained for close encounters, but this was different. These operatives were intelligent, adaptive, and relentless. She darted between conduits, using her environment as cover. Her device pulsed, creating temporary shields to absorb energy discharges and deploying miniature drones to distract her enemies. Each movement was calculated, precise, survival and strategy entwined seamlessly. One operative lunged toward her, energy glaive in hand. Angela rolled beneath the attack, grabbing a small pole from the floor. With a swift motion, she redirected the energy discharge back toward the operative, sending him staggering back. Another operative fired a pulse net, aiming to immobilize her. Angela activated her cloak, blending into the shadows, the net missing by inches. Chris's voice returned, calm but commanding. "Contain them. Prevent the extraction of the signal. Trust your instincts." Angela's eyes glimmered with determination. She moved like a phantom, striking with precise timing, redirecting attacks, and manipulating the environment to her advantage. Energy conduits sparked around her, creating a strobing battlefield where shadows and light collided violently. Though operatives regrouped, realizing the battlefield had become unpredictable. Angela pressed her advantage. She accessed the main conduit, interfacing with it using her device. Holographic streams of energy data cascaded around her as she rerouted power flows, creating interference patterns and securing the signal. Operatives attempted to adapt, but Angela's improvisation outpaced their programming. Suddenly, a massive energy pulse surged through the abyss, throwing Angela against the wall. She groaned, pain shooting through her side, but she recovered quickly, determination overriding discomfort. The operatives advanced in unison, But Angela anticipated their movement. She activated the final device from her harness, a concentrated pulse emitter that destabilized their cloaks and weapons temporarily. The operatives faltered. Angela seized the moment, leaping onto a platform above them. She triggered a series of energy barriers, cutting off their escape routes, and secured the relay point. The signal was safe. The operatives retreated into the shadows, disappearing. Into the neon-lit labyrinth, Angela stood panting, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. The abyss was quiet once more, neon flickering softly across wet floors. She had faced overwhelming odds and survived. She had engaged in combat, strategy, and intelligence, all simultaneously, and emerged victorious. Chris appeared silently beside her, his eyes scanning the aftermath. "Excellent work," he said. "You have proven your ability to operate outside the mansion under extreme conditions. These operatives will return, and their masters will escalate. But you are ready for the challenges ahead." Angela's chest heaved with exertion. It was intense. "They were nothing like I imagined." Chris's gaze was sharp, calculating. "They are trained to exploit weaknesses. You did not give them any. That is why you succeeded. Remember this night. Remember your strength and adaptability. You will need both in the trials to come." Angela looked around the neon abyss, the city's hum echoing above. She realized that the world beyond Skyhaven Mansion was unpredictable, dangerous, and vast. Yet she also understood that she had grown, adapted to challenges that had once seemed insurmountable. She was no longer merely a servant or an observer. She was a strategist, a guardian, a shadow moving through the chaos of Neo-Terra. As she ascended back toward the surface, the first hints of artificial dawn reflected off chrome towers and neon streets. The city glimmered with potential, danger, and opportunity. Angela's mind raced with possibilities, strategies, and the knowledge that this was only the beginning. She returned to Skyhaven Mansion, bruised, exhausted, but victorious. Chris awaited her, silent, his presence a constant reminder of the challenges yet to come. Angela knew that every mission, every encounter, was preparing her for something greater. A battle not just for survival, but for control over the forces shaping their world. As she lay in her quarters, the pulse of the mansion's AI lulling her into rest, Angela reflected on the night's confrontation. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and powerful adversaries. She had adapted, improvised, and survived. And she knew one truth above all: out there in the shadows of Neo-Terra, I am no longer just a shadow, I am the storm waiting to strike. And with that thought, Angela allowed herself to sleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, greater threats, and the continuing evolution of her power, skill, and resolve. The artificial dawn of Neo-Terra barely pierced the smog-laden skyline, yet the city below Skyhaven Mansion already stirred with relentless activity. Hovercrafts buzzed through the neon-lit avenues, and the massive energy grids hummed with unyielding life. Angela stood at the observation deck, black uniform still clinging to her frame, dark hair tangled by the wind, and crimson eyes reflecting a restless determination. Last night's encounter in the neon abyss had changed everything. She had survived, adapted, and claimed victory. But the victory was incomplete. Chris approached silently, as he always did, his presence measured, almost predatory. "You handled the abyss well," he said, his tone as calm and sharp as ever. "But the operatives were not working alone. Their orders originate from beyond the city, beyond this planet. There is a faction, ancient and hidden, that seeks to control Neo-Terra's energy resources. They are linked to interstellar entities, and their reach extends to the highest echelons of the city's corporate and political structures." Angela's pulse quickened. Interstellar factions, the mansion, the city, and now forces beyond her comprehension. Her mind raced, reconstructing the pieces of the puzzle she had gathered so far. "How do we find them?" she asked, her voice calm but tinged with anticipation. Chris gestured toward a holographic interface projected between them. Streams of encrypted data cascaded in translucent blue. They are meticulous, careful. They communicate through hidden channels embedded within Neo-Terra's infrastructure. We can trace the signals, but it requires infiltration, analysis, and subtlety. You will lead this mission. Alone. Angela froze for a moment. Alone? The weight of responsibility settled over her shoulders, heavier than any cloak or armor. Yet, beneath it, a thrill surged, the challenge of operating without oversight, without immediate backup. She had trained for this, but the unknown was always more dangerous than any known adversary. Descending from Skyhaven Mansion, Angela navigated the city streets using augmented reality projections overlaying her vision. Each step was calculated. Every alley, building entrance, and holographic advertisement became a potential path or trap. The interstellar faction's signal pulses were faint, almost imperceptible, camouflaged within the energy currents of the city's grids. Yet Angela's device, tuned to hypersensitive frequencies, detected the anomalies. The signal led her to a derelict sector known as the Obsidian District, a shadowed zone of Neo-Terra, abandoned by law enforcement, but alive with clandestine activity. Neon flickered through cracked walls. Graffiti glowed faintly in ultraviolet inks, and the smell of ionized metal hung thick in the air. Here, the city's forgotten circuits converged with illegal tech, creating a labyrinth of hidden nodes and encrypted channels. Angela crouched behind a massive conduit, her device pulsing softly. Her crimson eyes scanned the area. She detected movement. 3 cloaked figures, their visors reflecting faint red light, coordinating in silence. They were guarding the relay point. Their technology was advanced, possibly alien-enhanced. She noted the energy signatures, patterns of movement, and predicted their patrol cycle. A pulse of determination surged through her. She had faced similar threats before, but the stakes were higher now. The faction she pursued was not merely after city power, they aimed to influence planetary and interstellar control. Failure was unacceptable. Angela activated a micro-drone. From her harness, it emitted a subtle interference wave, disrupting the operative's sensors just long enough for her to slip through the shadows. She moved with precision, blending into the dim corridors, leaping across conduits, and avoiding direct lines of sight. Her mind mapped every route, every obstacle, with the fluidity of instinct and training merged into a single awareness. Reaching the main relay point, Angela interfaced with a terminal. Streams of encrypted signals cascaded around her, each pulse vibrating with clandestine data. She traced the primary origin, isolating the hidden channel, revealing the faint outline of a ship. A sleek, angular vessel, cloaked in energy and hovering just outside Neo-Terra's orbit. The faction was not only terrestrial, they had interstellar capabilities. A sudden alert sounded in her device. Multiple intrusions detected, more operatives, more threats, converging on her position. Angela's mind raced, weighing options. Escape was impossible. Confrontation was inevitable. Yet she was prepared. Energy weapons hummed in the shadows, their operators closing in. Angela darted behind a reinforced wall, activating her suit's energy dampeners to absorb incoming pulses. Sparks flew as plasma discharged, illuminating her silhouette against the neon haze. She retaliated with precision. Drones deployed, interference. Fields generated, environmental hazards exploited. Each movement was calculated, a dance of survival and strategy. One operative lunged with a pulse blade. Angela sidestepped, tripping a conduit that sent a surge of energy arcing across the floor, temporarily disabling the attacker. Another operative fired a net designed to immobilize, but Angela's cloak activated, rendering her invisible. Her pulse surged. She advanced, interfacing with the terminal to reroute energy flows and secure the signal. The operatives recovered quickly, adapting to her tactics. They attacked simultaneously, flanking her, forcing Angela to improvise. She activated a grappling line, swinging across the room, pulling loose conduits to create temporary barriers. Sparks flew, shadows collided, and neon lights flickered violently, painting the chamber in strobing chaos. Amid the struggle, Angela discovered a critical anomaly, a hidden code embedded within the faction's transmissions. It indicated the existence of a key operative aboard the cloaked vessel. This operative was coordinating attacks, transmitting orders, and manipulating Neo-Terra's grid from orbit. Capturing or neutralizing this figure was now her priority. Using the last of her energy devices, Angela created a localized pulse that disrupted the operative's cloaks and sensors. She slipped past them, securing the terminal. The encrypted channel was exposed. She transmitted the data to Chris, who responded almost immediately, his voice a calm anchor amid the chaos. "Excellent. You have located the source. Prepare for extraction. I will guide you to the launch point for immediate orbital engagement." Angela exhaled, adrenaline still coursing, her body bruised, but her mind focused. The mission was far from over. The interstellar faction's power extended beyond Neo-Terra, and now she had a target in orbit. Yet she felt a surge of confidence. She had faced overwhelming odds, navigated treacherous terrain, and outsmarted operatives far beyond standard training. She was evolving, growing into a force capable of confronting both terrestrial and cosmic threats. Ascending through the district, Angela reached the rooftop of a towering spire where Chris awaited in a small hovercraft. The city stretched beneath them, alive and dangerous, unaware of the silent storm navigating its shadows. Angela leaped aboard and Chris piloted them upward toward the waiting vessel in orbit. As Neo-Terra shrank beneath them, Angela's mind raced with anticipation. She had discovered a faction with interstellar reach, uncovered a critical operative, and secured a path to confront them. The universe beyond was no longer an abstract concept. It was a battlefield. Chris glanced at her, his eyes sharp, analyzing. "This mission escalates the stakes. The operative aboard that ship is highly dangerous. They will not hesitate. You must remain precise, adaptive, and relentless. Your skills are the only guarantee of success." Angela's crimson eyes gleamed with determination. "I am ready. Whatever awaits, I will face it. The signal, the faction, the operative. I will not fail." Above the city, beyond the atmosphere, the first glimmers of a cosmic conflict awaited. Angela's journey was no longer confined to Neo-Terra. She was about to step into a war fought across stars, shadows, and secrets that could determine the fate of worlds. As the hovercraft accelerated toward the vessel, Angela's mind settled into a singular focus. She was no longer a servant, nor merely a shadow. She was a storm, a force moving through chaos, prepared to strike, survive, and command the battlefield, whether on the city streets below or among the stars above. The void of space stretched infinitely around Neo-Terra, dotted with distant stars that seemed indifferent to the chaos below. Angela's pulse raced as the Skyhaven hovercraft pierced the upper atmosphere, leaving the neon-lit city far beneath them. The vessel before her, a sleek, angular craft cloaked in energy fields, hovered silently, its dark surface absorbing the reflection of the planet behind it. It was both magnificent and foreboding, an alien predator awaiting her intrusion. Chris piloted the craft with mechanical precision, his gaze fixed on the vessel. This ship's defenses are integrated with adaptive AI. Any direct assault will trigger countermeasures instantly. Entry must be surgical, precise. Your objective, infiltrate, locate the primary operative, and secure the intelligence without detection, if possible. Angela's crimson eyes glimmered with determination. The glow reflected off the cockpit, blending with the ambient illumination of Neo-Terra fading below. Understood. I will move fast, silent, and calculated. As They approached. Angela's device interfaced with the ship's outer sensors. Hidden pathways, maintenance conduits, and emergency docking ports became visible through augmented reality. She spotted a likely access point, a retractable docking hatch used for automated drone maintenance. It was small, guarded by minimal AI oversight, and presented the least risk of detection. Chris slowed the hovercraft, aligning with the hatch. "You will have a 20-second window. Once inside, I can maintain remote interference, but your movement must be flawless." Angela adjusted her suit, activating stealth protocols and energy dampeners. Her black uniform melded with the void, her movements deliberate and silent. With a swift leap, she clung to the vessel's hull, magnetic boots securing her against the energy field shimmer. She could feel the faint vibration of the ship's engines beneath her, each hum a reminder of the power contained within. Sliding into the hatch, Angela entered a narrow maintenance corridor. The interior of the vessel was sleek, almost organic. In design, smooth metallic surfaces interlaced with glowing conduits, pulsating with faint energy signals. The air was recycled, carrying a sterile metallic tang. Every step echoed slightly, a sound she quickly dampened with her suit's adaptive resonance technology. Her device mapped the corridors in real time, highlighting security drones and AI-controlled turrets. Angela noted their patrol cycles, studying patterns and exploiting blind spots. She moved like a shadow, her movements precise, almost fluid, anticipating every obstacle. Suddenly, a faint vibration under her boots indicated an approaching patrol drone. Angela flattened against a wall, activating a temporal phase emitter, a device that created a brief distortion in sensor readings. The drone passed without notice, its scanning systems tricked by the interference. Angela exhaled silently, her heart still racing. The corridor opened into a larger chamber, a command node with holographic consoles floating mid-air, streams of alien data cascading in every direction. This was the nerve center of the vessel, and she was closer to the primary. Operative than ever, yet she also sensed the risk. The operative's presence was imminent, and any misstep could trigger alarms. Angela crouched, analyzing holographic projections, searching for weaknesses in the AI control network. Her fingers danced over a portable interface, uploading microviruses to create temporary diversions. Panels flickered and hummed as the vessel's systems were momentarily distracted. She had moments, barely enough, to advance toward the central control room. A sudden motion caught her attention, a humanoid figure moving silently among the shadows. The operative? Angela's crimson eyes narrowed. The figure's movements were precise, deliberate, and confident, a clear sign of experience. Chris's voice came softly in her earpiece. "Proceed with caution. This operative is highly skilled, aware of all internal protocols, and capable of combat beyond conventional human parameters." Angela swallowed the rising tension, focusing on the objective. She could approach directly, risk detection, and engage in combat, or employ deception, bypass the operative, and secure the intelligence. She chose the latter. Her pulse synchronized with the vessel's ambient rhythm, her mind calculating every variable. Using the shadows, Angela advanced toward a side access panel. She interfaced with it, creating a holographic clone that mimicked her position in real time. The operative's sensors detected movement, but it was the illusion, not her. She slipped past, silent, unseen. The central control room loomed ahead. Its door shimmered with a translucent energy field, a security barrier integrating biometrics, motion sensors, and AI oversight. Angela activated a bypass module, her device interfacing directly with the ship's energy signature. Sparks flared, the field flickered, and the door slid open. Inside, the operative awaited. Not hostile, yet. A tall figure lit by holographic projections, scanning data streams. His eyes glimmered with awareness, and in that instant, Angela knew she was recognized. not as an intruder, but as a worthy adversary. "I expected you," the operative said, voice calm, almost amused. "You move well, but Neo-Terra's secrets are not yours to claim." Angela's stance was firm, her crimson gaze unwavering. "I'm not here to negotiate. The signal you're manipulating threatens the city and beyond. I will secure it, whatever it takes." The operative smiled faintly. "Then you understand. This is no longer a city's battle. It's a war across stars, and you're in its center." Angela's mind raced. She analyzed the operative's position, gestures, and energy. Signature, any aggressive move could trigger cascading alarms. Yet inaction meant losing the opportunity. With precision, she activated a localized EMP burst, temporarily disrupting the holographic consoles and the operative's energy detection systems. The operative staggered slightly, recovering instantly. "Impressive," he murmured, "but you underestimate the network's resilience." Angela used the momentary distraction to interface with the central console, streaming encrypted data to Chris. Every keystroke, every connection was a calculated risk. The room pulsed with energy, holographic streams warping around her, each second a test of her skill and resolve. The operative lunged suddenly, attempting to intercept her. Angela sidestepped, activating a kinetic dampener, redirecting his energy. Discharge harmlessly into the floor. Sparks flew, illuminating her determined expression. She pressed forward, bypassing the last security layer, securing the intelligence, and initiating a self-contained data packet to transmit directly to Chris. The operative's eyes narrowed. "You may have the data, but the network is endless. You have won a battle, not the war." Angela exhaled, adrenaline surging, yet she did not retreat. "Then I will fight until the war is over." Chris's voice came sharp in her earpiece. "Extraction point secure. Prepare for immediate departure. You have what we need." Angela leaped toward the docking port, her path clear for the first time. The operative remained, a silent sentinel in the shadows, aware yet restrained. She entered the hovercraft as Chris piloted them away from the vessel, leaving it cloaked in darkness, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat in the void. The intelligence secured, Angela allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. The mission had been more than infiltration. It had been a test of skill, wit, and adaptability against a foe operating beyond conventional limits. She had succeeded, yet the operative's warning lingered in her mind. The war was far from over. Neo-Terra grew smaller beneath them as they ascended beyond orbit, the first glimmers of planetary dawn reflecting off the craft's hull. Angela's thoughts swirled, interstellar factions, advanced operatives, and the secrets of the city were now intertwined with forces she had yet to fully comprehend. Chris glanced at her, calm yet analytical. "This is only the beginning. That operative is a fragment of a larger entity. You will face greater challenges, far beyond what you've encountered on Neo-Terra, but your skill, determination, and adaptability are why you succeed." Angela nodded, crimson eyes glowing faintly in the dim cockpit light. "I am ready. Whatever lies ahead, I will face it. I will not falter." The void of space stretched infinitely ahead, silent yet teeming with unseen threats. Angela's journey had carried her from the shadows of Neo-Terra to the threshold of interstellar conflict. The intelligence she secured was vital, but the battles to come promised challenges that would test not only her skill, but her resolve, her mind, and her very humanity. And as the hovercraft accelerated toward distant points of light and unknown adversaries, Angela understood one truth clearly. She was no longer a servant, nor merely a shadow in the neon-lit city. She was a force moving through chaos, ready to confront whatever darkness awaited among the stars. The emptiness of space stretched in every direction, a silent void speckled with distant stars and drifting debris. The Skyhaven hovercraft hummed softly as it cut through the orbit surrounding Neo-Terra, carrying Angela and Chris farther from the city they had known, and closer to the center of a threat far beyond their comprehension. The intelligence they had secured from the cloaked vessel pulsed softly in Angela's device, a digital heartbeat containing secrets that could reshape worlds. Chris's eyes were fixed on the readings, his face calm but taut with focus. The data indicates multiple relay points scattered across nearby sectors. Each node is a hub of control, feeding the faction's network and coordinating operations across multiple planets. They are far more organized than we anticipated. Angela's crimson eyes reflected the holographic maps before her, streams of data twisting and flowing like liquid fire. She leaned closer, fingers tracing pathways, calculating risk. So our mission isn't just one ship or one operative. This is a system, a web, Chris nodded. Exactly. And we've only uncovered a fraction of it. These nodes are protected by AI sentinels, autonomous defense drones, and highly skilled human and non-human operatives. Each sector is essentially a fortress. Angela's mind raced, adrenaline mixing with the thrill of the challenge. She had faced danger in Neo-Terra's streets, had navigated the cloaked vessel's corridors, and outmaneuvered a master operative. But this was an escalation. The scale of the conflict was interstellar, the stakes universal. She could feel it in the hum of the hovercraft, in the quiet tension of the void surrounding them. Chris spoke again, his voice measured. Our first target is a communications relay orbiting Zirath Prime. From there we can intercept transmissions, identify operatives, and potentially locate the command hub. But entry will be difficult. The relay is protected by adaptive shields and sensor grids that react to any energy fluctuations, including life signs. Angela's mind cataloged every variable: shield strength, drone patrols, AI response times, environmental hazards. She had been trained to think several moves ahead, but the vastness of space introduced unpredictable factors: micrometeoroids, solar flares, and the possibility of unknown alien technology. She felt her pulse quicken, not with fear, but anticipation, as the hovercraft approached the relay. A faint shimmer of energy rippled across the void. The relay station was a massive construct, angular and metallic, floating like a sentinel in the darkness. Its surfaces glowed faintly, reflecting the distant stars, and every panel, turret, and conduit suggested lethal precision. Chris aligned the hovercraft with a narrow maintenance port, smaller than a human, but large enough for Angela to enter. Undetected. You'll have a window of 30 seconds, he said, his tone calm but urgent. Once inside, you must navigate the interior undetected. The AI here is advanced, far beyond Neo-Terra's capabilities. Angela adjusted her suit, activating stealth protocols. Her black attire absorbed light, blending her into the void beyond the glass of the hovercraft. Her hair, dark and flowing, shimmered faintly under the ambient light, and her crimson eyes glowed softly, reflecting both determination and focus. With a leap, she secured herself to the station's hull, magnetic boots clinging to the surface. She slipped into the maintenance hatch, disappearing into the labyrinth of corridors that led deep into the relay station. Inside, the air was cold, artificially circulated, carrying a faint metallic tang. Every panel, conduit, and holographic interface pulsed with information, yet every pulse also whispered danger. Angela activated her device, overlaying the internal schematics on her vision. Patrol drones moved in precise patterns. Energy fields shimmered across corridors, and AI nodes monitored every motion. She moved carefully, exploiting blind spots, timing each step with exacting precision. Reaching a central control chamber, Angela froze as she detected multiple energy signatures converging toward her location. Operatives, human, alien, and synthetic, were approaching, their patterns coordinated. Chris's voice came through her earpiece. The AI has detected minor interference. They're moving to investigate. You'll need to improvise. Angela's mind worked at lightning speed. Using a nearby conduit, she diverted energy flows, creating temporary electromagnetic pulses that short-circuited surveillance nodes. The operatives paused, recalibrating their sensors. She slipped past them, moving deeper into the control core. The room itself was a cathedral of technology. Holographic panels floated mid-air, data streams cascaded like waterfalls of light, and the air hummed with the energy of focused computation. At the center, a primary node, the brain of the relay, pulsed with alien energy signatures. This was the source of the faction's coordination in this sector. Angela interfaced with the node, fingers dancing across holographic keys, bypassing security protocols and extracting encrypted transmissions. The data revealed something unexpected, a name, a code, a location. The command hub was closer than they had anticipated, hidden in the uncharted sector beyond the ecliptic rift. More alarming, the transmissions hinted at a coordinated operation targeting Neo-Terra itself. Suddenly, alarms blared, a high-pitched wail that resonated through the station. The AI had adapted, recognizing the intrusion, energy turrets activated, drones accelerated, and automated doors sealed off exits. Angela's mind raced, calculating probabilities of escape and continuation. She activated her cloaking protocol, becoming nearly invisible to sensors. Using grappling lines and conduit pathways, she maneuvered through the station with fluid precision. Each step was a calculation, each movement a negotiation with death. Yet despite the danger, a thrill surged within her. She was navigating an interstellar fortress, outsmarting AI and operatives alike. At the final chamber, before the extraction point, Angela encountered a sentinel, an advanced AI operative, larger than human, armored and glowing with energy fields. It moved with mechanical grace, anticipating her every motion. Angela assessed it quickly, its energy output, movement speed, and reaction patterns. She deployed a sequence of synchronized interference pulses, confusing its sensors, then leapt onto a conduit overhead, swinging behind it. The sentinel recalibrated, but Angela was already past, sliding into the docking port as Chris's hovercraft awaited. Once aboard, she exhaled, adrenaline still coursing. Chris piloted them away from the station as it shimmered with alerts and energy pulses, the AI now aware but unable to track them in time. "Data secured?" Chris asked, eyes scanning multiple monitors. Angela nodded, her crimson eyes gleaming with triumph. "Yes, and we have coordinates for the command hub, but the scope of this faction is massive. They've infiltrated more than we imagined. Neo-Terra may only be the beginning." Chris's expression darkened slightly. "Indeed, this war is not confined to a single city or planet. They are preparing for something far larger, and we are just the first line of resistance." Angela leaned back, absorbing the view of Neo-Terra shrinking below them. The city, oblivious to the cosmic threads weaving around it, continued its relentless pulse of life. She felt a mix of exhilaration and dread. The path ahead would be perilous, but for the first time, she felt truly in control, capable of facing the unknown, commanding her skill and confronting threats that spanned stars. As the hovercraft accelerated toward the coordinates revealed by the intelligence, Angela's mind settled into focus. The command hub awaited, the faction's inner workings ready to challenge her, and the future of Neo-Terra hung in the balance. But she was ready. Angela's crimson gaze met Chris's, a silent understanding passing between them. The battles ahead would be greater, the stakes higher, but together they could confront the shadows of the interstellar conspiracy and, perhaps for the first time, take the war to its source. The void stretched endlessly, indifferent and silent, yet every shadow promised revelation, danger, and opportunity. Angela tightened her grip on her suit controls. Heart and mind aligned with purpose. She was no longer just a servant or shadow. She was a force, a sentinel, and a storm moving through the cosmos. And as the command hub's coordinates glowed, Ahead, faint and distant, Angela understood one immutable truth. This was only the beginning. The void stretched endlessly around them, a black canvas studded with distant suns and drifting asteroids. The Skyhaven hovercraft cut through it with silent precision, heading toward the uncharted sector revealed by the intelligence Angela had secured. Ahead floated the command hub, a massive, angular construct encased in shimmering energy fields that seemed to pulse with a heartbeat of malevolent intelligence. Chris's hands gripped the controls, eyes scanning multiple monitors. Sensors indicate the hub is operating at full capacity. Energy shields are adaptive and dynamic. Any direct assault could trigger catastrophic countermeasures. Angela's crimson eyes glimmered in the dim cockpit light. Her black suit absorbed the ambient glow, and her long, dark hair fluttered slightly with the artificial gravity's shift. She was calm, but inside, every nerve was taut with anticipation. This was it, the heart of the faction, the nexus of their interstellar operations, and the source of the conspiracies threatening Neo-Terra and countless other systems. "We do this precisely," Angela said, her voice firm. "We infiltrate, secure the primary data core, and leave before they know what happened. No room for error." Chris nodded. "Window is short. I'll hold the hovercraft in orbit, providing interference to their external sensors. You'll have exactly 30 seconds to breach the outer perimeter undetected." Angela activated her stealth protocols. Her suit shimmered faintly as adaptive camouflage aligned with the hub's energy signatures. With a leap, she clung to the hull, magnetic boots anchoring her against the shield's slight hum. The outer layer of the hub was heavily armored, yet she identified a maintenance access port, a narrow slit designed for automated drone entry. It was her only viable path. Sliding inside, Angela entered the hub's inner corridors. The interior was vast, almost cathedral-like, lined with towering conduits and flowing holographic interfaces. Streams of alien data cascaded in every direction, and the air thrummed with energy, the heartbeat of the faction's operations. Every step echoed faintly, a reminder that any sound could betray her presence. Her device mapped patrol drones, energy turrets, and AI sentinels. Angela noted patterns and calculated timings, moving with the precision of a shadow. Each step, each breath was synchronized with the vessel's ambient rhythm. The corridors twisted and turned like a labyrinth, yet her augmented reality interface illuminated the most efficient path. She reached a secondary control chamber, its walls lined with floating holographic panels displaying interstellar operations, target lists, and encrypted communications. At the center, a primary node pulsed with intense energy, the core of the hub's intelligence network. Angela crouched, analyzing it, realizing the scale of the data she was about to access. Secrets spanning multiple star systems, operatives in every sector, and plans that could destabilize entire civilizations were all within reach. Suddenly, a presence made the air itself seem to shift. A humanoid figure, tall and imposing, stepped from the shadows. Energy glinted faintly along his armor, his eyes scanning her movements with unnerving precision. This was the hub's chief operative, the architect behind the interstellar network. "You've come far," the operative said, voice calm but carrying authority that seemed to vibrate through the chamber. "But you still underestimate the hub's defenses. Every corridor, every system, every drone is linked to me. You cannot succeed alone." Angela's crimson eyes narrowed. "I didn't come here to negotiate. I came to end the network's operations and protect Neo-Terra. Stand aside or be removed." The operative smiled faintly. With a swift motion, holographic barriers flared to life and sentinel drones emerged from concealed panels. The chamber transformed into a deadly arena, the air thick with energy pulses and the hum of weapon systems. Angela reacted instantly, deploying temporal phase emitters and adaptive shields. Energy blasts from drones reflected harmlessly, and she moved with precision, using the environment to her advantage. Magnetic conduits, floating data panels, and energy flows became her allies as she navigated the deadly chamber. The operative advanced not with brute force but with calculated grace. Each movement predicted, each step aligned with the pulses of the hub. Angela realized this was a duel of wits as much as skill. She needed to outthink as well as outmaneuver him. Using the holographic panels as distraction, Angela interfaced with the primary node, uploading a microvirus designed to disrupt the operative's synchronization with the AI network. Sparks flared, and the operative staggered momentarily, recalibrating. That was her moment. She leapt toward the core, bypassing security layers with precision, fingers dancing across the holographic keys. The hub's energy pulsed violently, reacting to her intrusion. Walls shimmered with cascading power, floors vibrated, and drones accelerated in a frenzy. Yet Angela remained calm, her mind a precise instrument of focus. With a final sequence, the microvirus initiated, sending a shockwave through the network that temporarily disabled drone coordination and security AI. The operative growled, a sound of both frustration and admiration. Impressive, but the hub is alive. It adapts. It evolves. Your victory will be fleeting. Angela ignored him, interfacing fully with the data core. Streams of interstellar operations, hidden bases, and intelligence logs poured into her device. Chris's voice came in her earpiece. Data download successful. Extraction route is secure. Return immediately. Angela exhaled, adrenaline surging as she retraced her path through the chaos. The operative attempted to intercept, but the microvirus had created a temporary blind spot, allowing her to slip past drones and automated defenses. She reached the docking port, her suit's stealth protocols shimmering faintly to mask her. Heat and movement. Chris's hovercraft was in position, its magnetic clamps aligning with the port. Angela leapt aboard, heart pounding, crimson eyes glowing with triumph and exhaustion. Chris piloted them away from the hub as it shimmered violently, energy pulses lancing outward as the AI recalibrated and attempted to regain control. Once at a safe distance, Angela collapsed into the cockpit seat, her suit cooling, pulse slowing. Chris glanced at her, expression calm yet impressed. You did it. The hub is compromised, and the intelligence you secured will give us the upper hand in the conflict. Neo-Terra and countless other systems are safer because of you. Angela allowed herself a faint smile, crimson eyes dimming slightly as the adrenaline ebbed. It wasn't easy, the operative. He was unlike anyone I've faced. The hub. It's more than just machines and AI. It's alive, in a way. Chris nodded. Exactly, but your skill, ingenuity, and determination allowed you to succeed. You've shown that human or augmented human capabilities can still outmatch even the most advanced networks when combined with focus and adaptability. Angela leaned back, gazing out at the void beyond the cockpit. Stars stretched into streaks as the hovercraft accelerated toward Neo-Terra, carrying both her and Chris back from the edge of interstellar danger. She allowed herself a moment of reflection. The battles had been fierce, the stakes enormous, and the journey transformative. But even as relief settled in, Angela knew the war was far from over. The faction had suffered a blow, yet its reach was vast. Intelligence, strategy, and resilience would still be required to confront future threats. Chris's voice broke her thoughts. We've achieved a victory today, Angela, but tomorrow the universe will challenge us again, and we will be ready. Angela's crimson eyes glimmered, her expression resolute. Then we prepare, we fight, and we continue until the threat is eradicated, no matter how deep or hidden it may be. The hovercraft ascended through the void, leaving the command hub behind, a shattered, flickering pulse of energy that had once seemed invincible. In the vastness of space, shadows and stars mingled, silent witnesses to their triumph. Angela allowed herself a final glance at the stars, understanding that she had not just survived, but emerged as a force capable of shaping the destiny of worlds, and as Neo-Terra's glow appeared in the distance, signaling the city she had fought to protect, Angela's heart and mind aligned with one immutable truth. She was no longer merely a servant nor a shadow in the neon-lit corridors of the world. She was an operative, a strategist, a sentinel, moving through the chaos of the cosmos, ready for whatever awaited among the stars. The command hub might have been compromised, but the universe was vast, and the challenges ahead would demand everything she had. And Angela, with crimson eyes burning bright and a mind sharpened by peril, was ready.